So this whole concept of connecting with people and interacting and grow a business based on who you meet, that didn't exist. I grew up in the era in the 90s of AOL and then eventually joined MySpace. But like, let's be honest, these weren't mediums that were being utilized for business or business development or to build a business brand. Within 3 days of losing my job, the light bulb went off in my head and I said, I want to help people find jobs. So I created an online job board and I learned how to code. And I invested my severance package into learning how to code myself, build a website, and market that website. Literally, Dustin, I started competing with Monster.com and Career Builder, and everyone that I knew thought I was absolutely crazy. My parents, my friends, relatives, they all thought I was crazy. And I never gave up on myself. The long and short of it is that I spent the better part of the recession from 2008 all the way up until almost 2012 networking my butt off every single day, spamming the hell out of people online, just to throw it out there.
Yeah.
And I learned about social media, firsthand, what it could do to put food on the table for my family. I think like that's where I probably want to go with this. You've got a lot of thought leaders out there that pontificate about how to use Instagram or how to use Snapchat, how to use Facebook ads. How many of these people have actually put food on the table for their families and worked for brands doing these things that they talk about? And I say this not to take shots at people, but I'm very proud of the work that I was able to do back then, very proud of where that work has led me throughout my career. So now as a speaker, when I go on stage, like today at Digital Summit, and I'm speaking about why you should be humanizing your brand or humanizing your content, I'm speaking very much from a place of in 2008, 9, and 10, and 11, when no one knew who the hell I was using social media to build relationships, to leverage social media to drive PR for my company, to pitch to media, to pitch to potential clients. Every single time someone would come to an event that my company was organizing, my company back then was called Jobs Direct USA. We were doing these events called pink slip parties for unemployed professionals. So anytime someone was mentioning Jobs Direct USA, anytime someone was going in our LinkedIn group, I was almost playing this role of like host and community manager and sales director. Like I was a jack of all trades. And I recognized during this period that if you make people feel valued, if you make them feel good, they'll be your advocate for life. Not even customer, but they'll be your advocate for life. So what I started seeing in 2008 and 9 when I was making no money and hit rock bottom financially, that as people were coming to my events and finding jobs in 2010, they were starting to refer me to their companies. In 2010 and 11, I never went on another sales call again. We got a sponsorship with Sprint to do a national pink slip tour. Like these are all byproducts of the success that I built early on as an entrepreneur based on building relationships. Fast forward to today, 2019, I've had the good fortune of working for big brands like LinkedIn and Winn-Dixie and others. And I teach from a place of experience and practicality. No one likes to be sold to. And you heard me say that today.
100%.
Nobody, not a single person watching this, not me, not you, no one goes on social media with the intent of being sold to. We go on social media, honestly, to disconnect from our everyday lives, because we want to escape our everyday reality. So we will spend time watching stories. We will spend time, like you and I, engaging with strangers. Like that's become normal, if you will, in today's day and age. And I think where brands are disconnected from this new norm and this new reality is they just see the sheer number of people. They see Facebook has 2 billion users, great, that's a place where we can penetrate and insert our brand into that conversation. But it doesn't work like that at all. So a lot of what I do nowadays is I teach brand marketers on the very basic principles of humanizing your brand, humanizing your content, being more relatable, having conversations, listening through social media to what's being said about your brand. Because if you're listening, now you can have conversation because it's a two-way street on social media, keyword being social. And if you're having this two-way dialogue, over time you're gonna build advocates. It's not gonna happen right away, but even if you start off with a small number of advocates, those people then go tell their friends, who will tell their friends, who will tell their friends.
And how many times have you seen where, I mean, you see that it's a long-term game. How many times have you seen where brands just start to dive in, don't see the immediate results, and just back out. And I guess what would you say to the people that are kind of on the fence of, hey, we're doing it, we haven't seen $1 million worth of sales in 3 weeks, kind of how would you help them, or what is some advice you'd have for them on just keep playing the long game?
This whole game of social media marketing is really complex. Personal branding is complex. Content marketing is complex. And what I mean by this is that there's no silver bullet. Like, there's not one thing that I can tell you to do that's going to make you successful. Because there's just one piece of the puzzle that I tell you, for example, Dustin, you're growing a business, you should have a personal brand, you should be connecting with people in your community. But when you connect with these people, what's your follow-up?
Exactly.
What's your offer? What's the content that you're putting in front of them? I go to conferences like this because I want to connect with other brand marketers, and I want to connect with their bosses because I recognize these are potential clients for Gill Media. But I had to put something in front of them. I had to give them a carrot all the time in front of them to keep them reeled in. More importantly, I also have to be accessible to these individuals. So that's why I say, like, this game of social media marketing is really complex. And I think what happens is you'll have marketers that they will get on board with a platform because they keep hearing of how exciting live video is, or whatever the next media. Like, we saw this happen with Snapchat a couple years ago. And I was one of those marketers. I was talking a lot about Snapchat back then, and a lot of marketers were jumping on. And after a few weeks, to your point, they'd be like, hey, this is crap. No one's following me. No one's watching our content. And I would challenge them and say, well, if you have 30 net new views, what do you know about those 30 people? Yeah. Are you having conversations with them? Do you know what their interests are, what their likes are? This is an exercise that I practice on my own social media channels. Any single time someone follows me on Instagram, any single time someone follows me on Twitter, I take 5 seconds to see who that person is. Every single time someone comes across my newsfeed, any single time someone DMs me, all it takes is a couple seconds to qualify who that follower is. Mm-hmm. But what's happening is that brands are operating at such a high speed of momentum that they're not stopping to do just the bare minimum and the basics. I think that's why you see brands failing at a high rate in social media, and you see people that we call creators or influencers that are exceeding, because those creators and influencers have the bandwidth to sit at home for 8 to 10 hours a day and engage with people. Think about it. If I didn't run a company of my own and I just focus on the Carlos Gill brand, I could sit at home all day.
Just talk about Carlos all day.
And I could DM people all flipping day. And I could go deeper than what I do now. I don't, because I just don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
And that's something that inhibits a lot of people, a lot of brands, because honestly, man, it's a game that requires a lot of time.
Yep, and I think the biggest downfall is everyone wants to, if I'm paying someone 40 hours to do this, I need to see, if I'm paying them this much, I need to see X amount come in. And where the downfall is, you can't attribute a direct ROI to, I took a couple seconds to figure out that they like baseball. How can I figure out how to tie my brand into their interests and actually build a relationship? And so the biggest struggle that I see is not so much like they get it, it's just giving the investment to actually, all right, we need someone to do it, even though there's not going to be a direct ROI. We're going to see an ROI.
There is an ROI, though. There's not an instant ROI.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Most people in business today on digital mediums are looking for an instant ROI.
Yep.
And there is no instant ROI. If there was, everyone would be doing whatever produces an instant ROI. There's an ROI to building a relationship, but you have to think through the long-term ROI. Going back to what I said before, I am a byproduct of what happens when you build relationships. I have no college degree. I dropped out of high school at 17 to get a GED. And I would consider myself to be a successful person today. How and why is because I built relationships. Mm-hmm. Because I invested in taking the time to get to know people. Think about that concept for a moment. Making no money for a couple of years, having cars repossessed, losing a home, to be able to then 10 years later say, I overcame all that. I'm in a much better place today because I took the time to build relationships. People want instant gratification. It's really why Instagram is what it is today. Because you can put content, you can dress it up with a few hashtags, and you're gonna get some auto likes. You're gonna get some instant gratification. You're gonna feel really good about yourself because someone in this world likes your content. If that's what does it for you, great. If you're trying to monetize, you got to strap on your seatbelt and know that this is a long-term play.
Yep.
Whatever you're good at doing, whatever your offer is, whatever your service is, there are buyers out there. But it takes time to meet these people. It takes time for them to feel comfortable with you, and it takes time to marinate that relationship.